What is up, everybody? We are back with another episode of Adrenaline and Instinct. Today, we are sitting down with a wildly successful hunter. He is also part of the YouTube channel Stuck N The Rut. We have Trevor Schneider.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, man. How's it going?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Just
about a month out.
Yeah, it's coming up quick. Right now, we're sitting. I'm just going to paint the scene for you guys. I am in the, what did you call it? The trophy room?
Yeah, pretty much just the Stuck N The Rut headquarters.
And I am sitting around, and I have, the unfortunate side was they showed me the big room first, and then they showed me the, more or less, the fails, or the ones that aren't worthy to be in the trophy room. And I'm like, I belong in the shed. Because I don't even think my best bull belonged in that next room. You guys have some phenomenal stuff here.
Thank you. Yeah, a lot of time, a lot of miles.
Yeah, I believe that. So you're my first hunting guest.
Okay.
On the show, and I think the part for me is I have sledders on, I have dirt bikers, but to me, I think I have the most vested interest in the hunting side because it's almost the freshest hobby that I have.
Yep.
And you've been in this game a good long while.
Yep, I have.
So
yeah.
Tell me a little bit. Tell me about let's back it up to kind of the beginning. I mean, your life's been on camera almost from the hunting side from the start. But
yeah, it has been really. Honestly, we started. I was 15 years old. We kind of just had a video camera, and we didn't have any skills really with the video camera, but we just knew how to run one. And we had recently started getting into long range at that time. And so we had a buddy that was really good into dialing in guns. That was kind of his life. And so I was out with them one day, and there was a buck that they were not excited about shooting, and I was. And it was at 1,008 yards, and we had this video camera, and we took a video of it. I dropped it at 1,008 yards, and we're like, we should probably do something with this. And so that was actually the first Stuck N The Rut video, was that 1,008 yard deer. For putting them out to the world.
What motivated you guys to share that experience? Because hunting's a pretty personal thing, but I think you guys do a pretty good job of sharing the content in a personal way still.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the big part of it is we don't have a cameraman per se, and so that's how it kind of gets a little bit more of the real feel than you see from a lot more of the other things on the YouTube channel. There's a lot of self-filming, a lot of that sort of thing. And so with that, you kind of get a little bit more of the real experience of what we are feeling, what we're seeing. We're not faking shots afterwards or making anything up with video. Everything is raw and real. And so a lot of times you end up with some short footage because of it. And so you don't end up with quite the same finished product of this cinematic masterpiece that some other people have. But we just try to be successful, and that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, I mean, I want to come back to that successful piece because from everything I've found, success is relative, depending on what your goals are and all of that. I would say going back, though, with the family kind of coming together, and I mean, really, it's a family YouTube channel, correct?
Yep, it is. Yep.
So being out there with the brothers, how do you guys balance the getting stuff on film versus just the raw experience of it?
There's probably a 5 to 10 year learning curve that went on with that, where it was, oh, you missed that shot. What are we going to do with that video now? We have 30 minutes of footage and you missed the shot. And so there was a lot of that happened. There was a lot of brothers yelling at each other that happened. But with us, we kind of grew up that way. We grew up with being able to kind of yell at each other and being able to come back and, okay, well, this is what we need to do differently next time and stuff. A lot of siblings kind of get pissed at each other and never come back around. But that's a big part of our success is the family. Without the family, we have helped. It helped Tana get started kind of in Alaska with the family hunting thing. Tana wasn't really that big into hunting when she was young. It kind of happened more when she went to Alaska and kind of started that whole thing. Most of my hunts in Alaska have also been with Tana.
Sure.
And so, Yeah, a lot of it is just keeping those relationships. You're hunting, you need to have relationships. It can be a solo game for hunting, but you need friends, you need family. When you have an elk down and you're 6 miles back and you have to hike it out on your back, you're not doing that by yourself. And you can try. I have done it before, and it's a miserable experience.
Oh my gosh. I had some, luckily when I got my only bull, first and only bull down, I had, so like a lot of what I was doing was hunting off a dirt bike.
Yep.
So I'd use the moto to get as far back as I could and then hunt off of it.
Yep.
So I was able to put 10 miles between me and a parking lot and, get away from some of that, the front slope traffic. And then when I got that one down, I happened to be like 4 miles from my bike.
Yep.
And that was like definitely I don't want to say a mistake because it was some character building and you kind of got to figure out who you were when that went down.
A little what now moment.
Yeah, and it was one of those scenarios where it was like, oh, it's only 4 miles, and then what I didn't account for is that you're doing a trip a quarter.
Yep.
So that's 8 miles, and I'm like, I'm not going to get this thing out until 2 days from now or a day from now. And luckily, it was cool enough. We didn't lose any meat. It was good. I had a buddy came and he met me on a 4-wheeler, as far in as he could get it,
right?
And would just shuttle back as I would kind of come to. It was a really cool first experience, which is good. Which kind of leads me to my next question for you, which is what was the first animal that you got down? And tell me about that first one that started this.
Probably the first one for me was archery elk when I was 14, and so. I went, my dad was the one that really got us into hunting from a young age. My dad worked 7 days a week no matter what, and that was the only thing that he would do that we could get him to take a morning off work or something like that would be to go hunting. And so he was kind of our guide and mentor into the hunting world quite a bit. And so when I was 14, he called me in a bull elk, and a little bit different back then. He never used a bugle tube even. He used a mouth reed, and he would use his hand to direct it. And to be honest, it's super quiet. I would always think there's no way he's going to call in an elk like this. It would sound like a squeal. And I was shocked when he called me in an elk. When I was 14, it walked right past me at 15 yards. I shot it, took off running, and it ended up running about 100 yards and piled up. Awesome. And so that was my first experience that really got me hooked. And what you probably don't really hear too much in the hunting world is, like you talked about with me, I do a lot of snowmobiling, I do some backcountry snowboarding, a lot of adrenaline type things. Hunting archery is extremely adrenaline oriented.
Oh yeah.
Whereas a lot of people don't really think that, and that gap doesn't quite happen as much with rifle. I still like hunting with the rifle. You can obviously get bigger animals with a rifle. It's just you do not have that same adrenaline aspect of a 1,000-pound animal coming charging through the brush at 10 yards.
Yeah.
There is almost nothing that gets your heart pounding harder.
And what a lot of people don't get is, and I'm more talking to the non-hunting crowd that I know is listening, is because I still want this stuff to be, I want you to internalize it and kind of understand a little bit more, less from the technical standpoint of hunting. We're not going to get into any tips and tricks and how we're going to get these animals down, but it's more or less just how badass it is, because these animals are coming in with, a 5-foot rack on the top of their head of pointy bone, and they're coming in ready to fight you. They think that you're another bull and they want you dead away from their cows.
Yep.
So they're coming in with so much rage and just outright emotion, and you're kind of just almost playing God in that moment of, I'm not actually what you think I am, and I'm going to put an arrow through you.
Yep. And honestly, I think about that a little bit more the older that I get. I didn't used to think about it too much with it. Well, when an elk's at 5 yards straight on, all it really has to do is put its head down and run at you. And typically that is not what an elk is going to do, but technically it could. And so I think about that a little bit more often than I used to, but with moose is where that gets a little bit spookier with when they're coming in straight on, because they are not like an elk where they just see you and they run the other direction. They are looking to fight, and they can barely see.
They are stubborn.
Yep.
Stubborn creatures too. I've had so many times where I'm like packing that elk out. I have the weight on my back. I'm tired, and there's this very young bull moose in the middle of the trail, just laying down in a puddle.
Yep.
I'm sitting there revving my bike, and the thing's just like looks at you and just like, dude, F off. Like, this is my spot. You figure somewhere else out to go. And it's just one of those. So my dream, which I was telling you a little bit before we started, is a bull moose. I mean, that's one where in North Idaho, it's a once in a lifetime tag. So you keep putting in and playing the odds, but unfortunately, they're not totally in your favor.
Yep.
But it's on the list, man. It's on the list. I'd love to hear some moose stories from you.
Yeah, and I mean, you'll eventually get lucky. Keep putting in. It always shocks me. I'm usually a really unlucky guy, and I'm shocked when I draw things. But like that, I drew my Idaho moose when I was 15, and so I guess that was the same year I shot that 1,008-yard deer, which that was also one of our first YouTube videos, was my 15-year-old moose. And it was just really cool experience. I mean, kind of beginning of October is when the moose really start rutting. And so we were calling in like 3 to 4 bulls a day. And so that's not an experience that you get with elk. Elk is typically more of you put on a lot of miles, you have a lot of days where you don't hear or see anything. And even when you do hear them, elk is kind of like a white-tailed deer. I mean, they are skittish, they run, they're smart, they're smelling. Moose are kind of dumb, and that is why they're fun to hunt. It's kind of a little bit more like a mule deer, where it's like you see a mule deer, you have a couple minutes usually, or a couple seconds to shoot at one, whereas you see a whitetail, it bolts, it's gone, you don't have a shot. Moose are kind of like that, where you have time to do stuff. We call them into 5 to 10 yards, and you just sit there and look at them in the wide open, the bull's sitting there raking brush, and there's nothing that gets you fired up quite like that.
I've seen because you guys have a lot of YouTube stuff on Alaska as well.
Yep.
Where usually you're seeing, the tundra or kind of that muskegee style terrain, where you're calling, and maybe that moose heard you a day ago.
Yep.
And they're just slowly working their way over.
Yep.
Which is just does that exist in any other type of ungulate?
Not really. I mean, they're just so unique, and you would think that such a big animal cannot hide very well. But like you were saying, in that tundra, you would think that, if there's moose here, we'll see them everywhere. And you can go from, we had days where you'd just be stuck in a tent for 2 days, and you'd get these little breaks in the weather, and you'd go outside and you'd last for an hour, and you'd not see a single thing, and you'd be just discouraged. There's no moose here. I don't know why we even flew out here. And then the weather would break, and it was just like wild kingdom. There's moose running all over the place. And a lot of the times, people try to force it and hunt on the bad weather days. I still hunt on bad weather days just because I'm stubborn, but usually those are not the successful days. Yeah. Almost across the board. I can't really think of a day that the most miserable, rainy, wet day was a day that we're successful. And I think we always think it's going to be, and you're kind of stubborn, and I'm going hunting this morning no matter what, and you go out and you get wet. And
I always like the idea that it will be the day, we're going to put the hard work and no one else is out.
Well, and if you don't have that idea, you have a hard time getting the motivation to get up and hike 10, 15 miles, right?
But at the same time, I think there's that threshold with the weather. Like, I learned this in my first season because I thought it's like every day I have to be out. I have to be doing this. And I remember there was one where we were out and we were like 5 miles from the truck camping, just tent camping and then kind of hunting out of there. And the first day it was absolutely pissing rain, like downpour, nothing, which now I've learned, nothing is out when it's like that. Maybe right after for sure, but so we go out, it's downpouring, like you're bugling, you're trying, and it's like the water's just like gargling in your tube, and it was one of those ones where it was like, you felt like such an idiot after doing that.
Yep.
But it was like that learning moment where I'm like, all right, I know now like what the threshold is to go out in or to not go out in, where to spend my time, where not to.
Yep.
Which I would be really curious to kind of learn, like you guys, or you had, I mean, the family to learn from.
Right.
Obviously that had really kind of helped the learning curve.
Yep.
For you, but like what were some kind of like nuggets and things that you learned right away? Or maybe some learning moments that you had on your own that your brothers were like, dude, you idiot, what are you doing?
Yeah, so I mean, there was a lot of them. Hunting is just a combination of mistakes that you're learning from, and you just, I mean, there's a lot of ups and downs with hunting. There's a lot of ups and downs. And so, whereas with other things like you go snowmobiling, you go skiing, there's a lot of up. And hunting, when the highs are high, but the lows can be pretty low too. But the only thing that makes the difference between a successful hunter and not a successful hunter is time. That is the only difference. You can get lucky this year or next year, but for consistently being successful, there is nothing that replaces time and miles on the ground. And so you could be the best hunter that there is, and if you're getting out 2-3 days in a season, you're probably not going to be successful unless you're getting lucky or have a nice piece of private to go on.
Yeah, that's very fair point. Again, and you're somebody that, I mean, you're a full-time realtor. That's your day job.
Yep.
So what do you have to say to balancing like a career and as many days as you're able to put in the woods?
Well, I'm kind of addicted to fun. I have this problem where I'm addicted to fun.
Same.
And so I think a lot of people have that issue. And so I kind of knew that from when I was just getting out of high school. I'm like, I have to figure out a job that I can still have all the fun that I like to have. And it's kind of all times of the year, right? It's hunting is in the fall, snowmobiling all winter, and then usually in the summer I'm hiking to mountain lakes, doing that sort of thing, fishing. And so you just need time to do that. And if you're working 5 days a week and only have the weekends to do that, you just run out of time. You just really don't have the time to fit everything in that you want to. So kind of, my mom started real estate a couple years before I graduated high school. My whole family was into logging, construction end of things. I kind of saw the route that she was going with it, and I was like, market's doing good. Seems like a smart thing for me to do. So I hopped into the real estate market, actually in Coeur d'Alene. So I was in that market for a couple years. It was before Coeur d'Alene got crazy busy, but it was honestly too busy for me. I'm a small town boy, and Coeur d'Alene just turned to chaos. It was about 2018, I think, when I left, 2017. And it was just a little bit too chaotic for me. And so I came up north a little bit further and partnered up with my mom. And then recently, just 2 years ago, we bought the brokerage together. And so we're the only two realtors in there. We don't have any other realtors. But the dynamic with her having a partner is we can, typically a realtor, you kind of have to work full time no matter what, right? Yeah. And we have been able to work out a dynamic where I work when she's not working and she works where I'm not. We're still mostly working. I work 5 days a week, but I usually hunt 4 to 5 days a week at least. Yeah. And so I get out and I work. You know, I can get a good morning hunt in by 9-10 o'clock, and I go to the office and I push my appointments for the afternoon. And usually if I kill something, I can get to the top of a mountain for service and cancel my afternoon appointment. And so that's kind of the way that I've worked it. And then typically winters are slow, so that gives me time to take some weekdays off. If we get 2 feet of snow overnight, I go snowmobiling the next day. And she'll work that next day, and then I'll go, okay, well, it's your turn to go take some time off. And she'll go take some time off. So a lot of that just comes down to your relationships, your work relationships, but you have to find something that gives you the time. Because, again, if you're getting out on just Saturday and Sunday, you're going to have a hard time being successful every year with elk hunting or something like that. Yeah. And so you've got to try to get out some weekdays. Just, again, time and miles put in is what makes success. Yeah,
it sounds like you've kind of outfitted the career to work around your hobby.
Pretty much.
Well,
yeah.
I would
pretty much.
Maybe sledding I can call the hobby. I mean, it sounds like the hunting side, it's, more of just a a family tradition
Yeah.
that you guys have to uphold.
Yeah.
I think that's incredible. I think for a lot like myself, it's like I've kind of outlined my career. So I'm in sales. However, the sales that I'm in, I'm able to more or less kind of have that communication with whoever is around me or with me, that it's like, hey, come September, I'm not there. I'll be there every other month.
Yep.
But September is kind of the one where I'm going to be in the woods. Yep. So if you need something, let's do it either August or October.
Yep.
And but it's kind of been, and even before hunting was a thing that I was obsessed with. It was dirt bike trips or snowmobile trips.
Yep.
I mean, really just, I think, prioritizing the fun having. Professional fun haver.
Yep.
Is,
yep.
I got to put that on the res.
That's what I go as. Yep. Yep.
Awesome.
I'm just kind of a jack of all trades, excellent at nothing, but I can do everything pretty well.
I don't know, dude. Looking at this trophy room, I mean, excellence is definitely in the conversation.
But yeah, again, time. Elk hunting, you have a lot of experiences where you screw up, and if you let that take you down, you won't have a very good year. You have to screw up and be willing to just, okay, well, I'm going to go hike 10 miles again tomorrow and try it again.
Yeah.
My dad used to always tell us when we were kids, you get one opportunity a year. You can get more than that. But I mean, if you don't have much time in the woods, that's really all that you get usually.
Yeah.
If you're kind of hunting weekends or something like that, you might get the chance on one bull, and if you screw it up, that was your chance. But if you're getting out 5 days a week or something like that, usually you get a couple more opportunities.
I'd be curious to hear like your kind of how you, I guess, would categorize success. Like in the woods, is obviously animals on the ground successful, but for a lot of people, sometimes that end goal is years in the making.
Yep, it is.
So how would you kind of look at success in a relative way?
It's one of those things that you can't expect yourself to be good at right when you start. It's just like kind of a little bit like everything. I mean, it's snowmobiling's the same way, skiing's the same way. If you start it and expect to be good at it right when you start, it's not going to happen. And so you just have to go out there. You were saying you got your 6 point your first year. That's awesome. That's a giant accomplishment. Most guys never happen.
I'd say mostly a luck though.
And it happens that way. But then sometimes, like I said, if you to get one every year, it's going to be that time put in. And I still have years where I don't get one, where I put in a crazy amount of time in September and I don't get one. And usually I'm passing up some 5 points and some small 6 points, so I can't be too bummed about it. I'm not in an area that has great genetics. We always call our elk jungle bowls because we live in some of the nastiest brush I've ever been in. And there's no glassing. You're just literally hunting elk in the jungle.
Yeah.
Is what it feels
almost like. All off sound.
Yep.
In a way.
Yep.
Yeah. To that point, and I think this is like where I want to normalize, because I feel a lot of folks, just in the hunting space as a whole, really normalize, like, if you're not out killing big bulls every year, you're not a hunter.
Yep.
And, it's one of those where I want to get out and kill a bull every year. That's the goal. And I was able to do that the first year. But then my second year, so last year, I had 28 days in the field, and I had 6 full draw opportunities where just things went awry, where a cow just pushed a little further and then just staggered right between me and the bull. I've had ones where a branch was hanging right over its vitals, at a 40-yard shot, which is just...
Yep.
It's like, and I'm like, I just don't want to wound that thing.
Better to not take the shot.
Better to not take it and kind of live to tell the story. I had me and Jaden Ballard, who I know you know, but you got to get him on the pod sometime. But we were chatting about it because he's a pretty dang successful hunter as well. I mean, he's usually killing a branch antler bull every year.
For sure. Yep.
And I was talking to him, and it's like, I feel like I got 5 years of knowledge from last season, or 5 years of experience of like how many opportunities I had. I was into bulls every single day.
Yep.
Which I would say was like a success in itself.
Yep, it is.
And then being able to have what I would categorize as 5 reps in the red zone, and then a handful of additional kind of great setups where things just didn't play out, or, me being new to it, I'm impatient. I have a bull at 20 yards, I can see him raking, and he's bugling his head off, and I'm like, if I could just do 2 more steps, I'd get it. And then as soon as you make one move, he's bolting out of there. And it's like, what would have happened if I just stayed still for another 10 minutes?
Right.
Would he have eventually meandered over? And I think it's like the realizing that it's like they don't have a time frame. Like, to them, they could sit there for an entire day, and that is just what they will do.
Exactly.
And it's not our time frame of like, hey, there's only 2 hours left of daylight. Like, come on, dude, let's move. So I look at my season last year as like, I felt coming out of it like a lot of like pride and success, even though I didn't have a bull on the ground. And I want to make that kind of known too, I guess, to some listeners of like, hunting's not always about getting something on the ground, even though that's the best possible outcome, usually. But sometimes it's kind of the journey.
It is. It is. And for elk hunting, that's why I like elk hunting, and that's why I like archery hunting. And so is because of that. I have a hard time with some of the other type hunting where you're not calling them and stuff like that, because I'm not really having as much fun as when you're killing it. So in those instances, I guess, for example, if I'm shooting going mule deer hunting, I'm more categorizing the success on getting one on the ground, because the actual hunting of hunting a mule deer is pretty brutal. Usually it's in the snow. You're not calling them. It's just a lot of miles, a lot of glassing. Now with elk, I can have a great elk season and not kill an elk, because if you just have elk into 5 to 10 yards, you're having fun. You do not have to actually kill one to have fun. Calling elk is an absolute blast. And I mean, it's not just calling elk. Calling moose is the same way. Like I was saying, moose, you just have more of them come in, and moose is actually a little bit more fun because they're a little bit dumber. And so I have a friend this year, Ryan Ferens. He's actually a pro archer, and he's drew a moose tag this year. I'd kind of been pushing him to do it. He drew it his first year, so he got lucky.
I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear
that. So he got lucky. I was just like, man, I swear, if you draw, I will do everything I can to get you a moose. And so he drew one, and he's one of those people that is so dialed in with archery that I know if I can get him a good shot, he'll kill it. He doesn't wound stuff. He's one of those guys that his whole life is spent with high pressure archery shooting, to where when an animal comes in, he can stay calm and take the shot. So I'm looking forward to having some moose calling this fall.
That's amazing. Do you ever feel like, I mean, knowing all the other fun stuff you do, sledding, and honestly, sometimes sledding I like to categorize as like borrowed time. Because Mother Nature, I mean, there's so many variables that are out of your control when you're on a sled, and then not to mention one of the most, I would say, like, machines that just don't make sense. Like your instinct is to turn left, and really you need to turn right to go left. And I always like to like kind of like call it out. Like I talk to racers, like people that race motocross and other things that get into a hunting space. And I think it's like, do you ever find that being able to be comfortable in that red zone, or where that adrenaline is pounding and you have to make a split-second decision, do you think that helps you in the woods?
It does. It does. Some different experiences can change that for you, though. Like I had a grizzly bear experience in Alaska that changed a little bit how I feel about some of that stuff. Sometimes I take quite a few less risks, I'd say, after that one. And so, yeah, there's always risk associated with snowmobiling. I try to kind of play it as safe as I can, I guess I'd say. Back in the day when I started snowmobiling, it was me and my one buddy, and we just went everywhere. That's kind of how I learned how to snowmobile, was I learned all the spots with him. And we knew nothing about avalanches, and I do not know how we never died. Because we would get to a big open hillside after a big snowstorm, and we would go, I wonder if that's going to slide. And he'd go do one big side hill across the middle of it to see if it would pop. And that was our avalanche test. I mean, the worst possible thing that you could do. And we're out there 15, 16 years old, just snowmobiling in avalanche country, no idea what we're doing.
Yeah.
And so we were lucky back then. We had some guardian angels but now I do not do that kind of thing anymore. I mean, I see an open hillside and it can even be low avalanche danger, and I'm like, I don't want to go on that.
Yeah.
And I stick to the trees. I'm good in the trees. And so for me, I kind of stick to what I know.
Yeah.
And the older that you get, and I have a kid now, that slowly starts to change you in that direction.
I love that. So there was a time last year, it was like, I think one of the bigger days of the season. It was like well over hood for how deep it was.
Yep.
And super, super high Abbey danger. And we're on the trail up at, I think, Saltese.
Uh-huh.
And we're just on the trail, and all of a sudden this, just a massive cut just comes down right over the trail.
Yep.
It probably cut, I want to say, a 5-foot slab, maybe 200 feet across.
Jeez.
And this is like low country, trees everywhere. Like, in theory, if it's a high Abbey day, this spot's not sliding.
Yeah.
And it's not something you would ever have to worry about. And I just remember seeing that, and this thing kind of like coming down and across. And that was like that kind of moment that was like, man, we are just not as in control as we think we are.
Yep.
Even on this safe trail, it's like it could get you if it wants to.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the crazy part. I want to jump back because that has nothing even to compare or hold a candle to your grizzly bear experience in Alaska.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was kind of a different experience. Some people may have heard about that a little bit, but I was in Alaska with my sister. When you're in Alaska, you can kill a brown bear if your first of kin relative acts as your guide. Otherwise, you have to spend 30 plus grand to go on a hunt like that with a guide. So my sister was my guide. Brother-in-law Adam went and dropped us off. We were having a really hard year for grizzly bears just because it was a late winter, and so they were popping out of the dens late. We were there opening a season. Nothing was out of the den yet, and so we're just glassed. We ended up spotting a dot in the snow in the alpine, and a lot of people are like, you cannot glass from 6 miles away. It was 6 miles away. On Onyx, I did a line distance, and it was 6 miles line distance, and so hiking it was a lot further than 6 miles. And so line distance, there's a dot in the snow, and I mean, we were into our second week of bear hunting without seeing much, and we're like, well, we always try to be successful. It's not always necessarily, sometimes we go a little bit too far. I guess this is a good example of going a little bit too far. And, my sister at that time was, we can do anything, and I'm like, well, if my sister is saying that we can do this, we should be able to. I'm not going to be the guy that's like, no, I'm going to talk my sister out of guiding me up that mountain to go kill that grizzly bear. And so we just started hiking, and I knew we were going to spend the night on the hill. So we brought a tarp and a pair of changed puffies or dry puffies in some dry bags because we knew we'd be spending the night on the hill. Got up in the alpine, saw the bear, shot it a couple times with the rifle jammed, and the bear started coming down the mountain at us. We ran a ways, a couple hundred yards, and then I kept thinking the bear's going to pile up before it gets here, and it comes rounding over the hill right past where we left all of our gear when we ran. And we just had to wait. At that point, we saw it at about 150 yards coming over the hill. I have a pistol, the rifle's jammed. You have to wait till it gets close enough to start shooting. And so there's nothing to hide behind. We're up in the alpine. There was a couple little rocks that had melted off that we were trying to hide behind, but he was coming right for us. He could see us. And so I waited till about 25 yards. I jumped the gun on the first shot. I could barely, his head was just rounding over one of the other rocks that we were kind of trying to tuck behind, and I kind of spattered the rock in his face, which probably really pissed him off. And then he rounded around the rock, and then I just was pretty much like, okay, this is game time. If I don't do this, we're going to die. And so I shot 3 more times. It spun, and then I gave him one last one, and then we took off running. He had started going the other direction, and we just turned and booked it. And I started heading uphill because I was like, this thing obviously can move down really fast in the snow. We need to get above it. I think I got a lung shot, so I'm like, this thing shouldn't be able to run uphill. The only reason it could come down was because it was kind of sliding in the snow. So I'm like, it shouldn't be able to come uphill, so we went, got a couple hundred yards up the hill, and then just sat until we saw that it wasn't coming for us, and we were able to get some glass on it. And that honestly wasn't the worst part of it. A lot of people think that it probably was, but you're 8 miles back. I think it was about 8 miles once we hiked from where our camp was in a complete monsoon downpour. And now we have to get a whole bear skinned out. We're in the Alpine. We can't camp in the Alpine. So we have to get it skinned out and then lose some elevation and get down into the riverbeds. And so that was honestly the worst part. And so I was kind of sick, and I had to force myself to eat because I'm just one of those people. I feel like I just always have to eat food. So I just had to, like, every bite, I'd sit there, try to try to not throw up. You're trying to hold it back, and I'd have to just sit there for a couple minutes between each bite and then just force myself another one. Got down into the riverbed, still couldn't get the rifle unjammed, so we're just hanging out with the pistol. And we literally slept on rocks in the riverbed in the monsoon with a tarp over us. And woke up in the morning, I had a 150-pound pack, Dan had a 100-pound pack, and we had 8 miles out to go, still in the monsoon. The monsoon never stopped. And we had probably 20 river crossings going out, which are a foot deeper when you're in a monsoon. And the hunt is on YouTube, but the going out part was so miserable that there is like almost no footage of it. It's not even on the video. And that was honestly the worst part of the whole thing, just because neither one of us pulled our phones out. We were head to the ground. I had a Bowtech Realm X at the time that I was using as my walking stick, because if you have 150 pounds on your backpack, how I do when I take a break is I fall. I just go on a hillside and I fall down. So if you put your bow strapped to the back, it's going to break the first time you sit down to take a break. And so I put one walking stick in the bag. I had one walking stick and I used my bow. And it was in the riverbed, and I cannot believe that bow held up. It went all the way out 8 miles as a walking stick on the cam in rocks. And
oh my gosh.
The bow still shot after that.
It's one of the things that I want to just back up on, because I watched the video and it is incredible. I'll link it in the description just so everyone can kind of go and watch. When you initially had put great shots, was it 3 shots on it with the rifle? And then it jammed. Your sister was there calling out distances to you while you were messing with the rifle.
Yep.
Trying to get it back and firing.
Yep.
And I remember kind of eerily hearing on the video where it's just like 400, 300, 250, 200. Like, it was just like the amount of distance that thing was moving shouldn't have been possible. But
and you can't, when you're watching the video, it doesn't look like it, you know? And I think it's the proportions of a bear that size. I think their steps are they're moving so much more ground than you think. And so, because it was kind of the same way for us, I kept thinking it's way up the hill. We've got time. It's going to die before it gets here. And then, those call-outs started getting closer and closer. And I was like, we got to go. And she literally, I think I handed her the pistol, actually, or maybe she had it on her chest. And she looked at me and goes, "I'm not doing this," and hands it back to me. And I'm like, okay, for some reason, she had killed a grizzly bear in Alaska with her bow and stuff like that. And so I was just like, oh, she's got it. And in that moment, she was like, no, you're doing this part. And and the part that I kind of forgot to say in the story that would have been, we would have both been dead if that would have actually happened. When we were running down the hill, I was carrying the gun in a holster because we had taken all of our stuff off where I was shooting.
On a chest holster.
Yeah, because it was a chest holster, one of those just pressed in ones. So I was carrying the chest holster as we were running down the hill. It wasn't on my chest because I was laying down in the snow shooting off the rifle. So I was carrying the chest holster, and we're just, running down this hill in probably knee-deep slush pretty much is what's the top of the snow level is. And the gun fell out of the holster. And I stopped and I looked down and the gun was gone. And I was just my heart sank. And I turned around And luckily I could see a little piece of black in one of my footsteps. And I reached down and that was the pistol. And so that alone, we would have died if I wouldn't have found that or noticed it fall out right off the bat. And so, you know, yes, it was partially my fault for not having chest holster on, but just so you know, those pressed-in holsters are not promised to hold them in. You're better to have a strap. I know it's not as quick, but it's better to have a gun there when you need it. I still sometimes use pressed-in holsters, but they scare me because of that a little bit. And so, yeah, I mean, that was a really close instance. I have never felt like that in my life. I've had some pretty stupid, close to death encounters, and I have never had a moment in my life where I went, this is it. And I felt it with that.
That is, so how far was the bear when you put that last shot on it with the pistol?
The shot that wasn't on video was 5 yards. We measured that one at 5 yards from the rock that we were standing behind to his footprint where it turned around. And so 5 yards was the last shot, and then my sister, right after he turned, she was hiding behind the rock, and I'm standing over it shooting. And right as he turned was when she finally turned her phone on at this point and just popped it over the rock. And so she got that last video as it was running away. That was the final round in the pistol. So unfortunately, we didn't get all the pistol shots on video before that, but I can't blame her for waiting until it turned around to pop over the rock.
What kind of pistol was it?
That was a 454 Casull.
So how often do you practice with that?
Not often enough. No, I think most people don't. You know, you kind of have it on your chest and you just think, I know how to use it when it happens. And luckily, my kind of instinct took over. I've shot quite a bit, but I don't practice that much. I don't even know if I had ever shot that gun because I flew to Alaska, so I didn't bring my pistol with me. I just took Adam's pistol. And so I don't even think I had ever shot that specific one. I was used to carrying a 44 mag around down in Idaho. I thought that was big enough for our grizzly bears. I carry something bigger now. You know, a lot of guys shoot 10 millimeters and that's what they carry. My honest opinion on that is you're better using bear spray. Most people would not think that, but if you're going to piss it off, 10 millimeters is not going to kill it. And after that experience, you're just going to piss them off if you shoot them. And so if you shoot them, they want you to die until they die. And so even if, you know, it was like that experience, he was getting shot at and he was still coming. I don't know if they know inside, but it was his last mission to make sure that I died.
I feel like that's the difference between like a predator versus like a prey animal.
Yeah.
Like an ungulate will run from death, you know, and they're afraid.
Even though it could kill you like a moose, it could kill you, but it gets shot and it takes off and runs the other way.
Yeah, it doesn't know what's going on and runs. And I think I've never gotten the chance to ever see a grizzly bear, but I mean, even like a black bear, it's like they fight it a lot harder.
Yep.
And they still will run. I mean, there's definitely more skittish than something like a grizz, but from everything I've seen, it's like that willingness to just keep going is so much stronger with a predator. And then, I mean, how heavy was this bear?
He was probably 1,000 pounds in the spring, probably 1,500 pound bear in the fall. But we were spring hunting, but he's still, I mean, I have kind of a picture of him, just a still shot of the video when he was all puffed up before he started coming down the hill. And I mean, he just looks like a giant. Because there's that national park called Brooks National Park up in Alaska that everybody goes there and, you know, takes pictures. They're all tourist bears there and whatnot. And you get a pretty good idea of what's a big bear when you're there because there's so many big coastal brown bears there. And so it's definitely on the bigger end of boars for sure. He's squared 10'4", and so yeah, a monster pretty much.
What do you have to say for people like myself where I'm hunting, you know, at least for me in Idaho where there's no grizz, and going to somewhere like Alaska where that becomes this like kind of looming threat?
Just always be prepared, really. I mean, and even in Idaho, I have been having a lot more run-ins with grizzlies. It kind of depends on where you're at in Idaho, but Idaho is getting their fair share of grizzlies in some parts of it. And so now anymore, I mean, I pack heavy anywhere I go. And if I forget my gun sometimes, I am uncomfortable the entire time I'm in the woods if I don't have my big gun with me. And so that's all I can say. Yeah, if you're going to Alaska, be prepared. In that instance, I wouldn't do another brown bear hunt without having probably like a big lever action of some kind. Probably like a 500 Smith & Wesson. That's a lot of times what a lot of the guides have up there is their backup gun. And so that would probably be, I'd be a lot more comfortable with like a 500 Smith & Wesson lever action.
Just a hand cannon?
Yeah, if you've got one coming in. And I have a 500 Smith & Wesson pistol now, so that's what I pack. It is a hand cannon. I'm pretty sure it's the biggest pistol made, but it's worth it.
Yeah. Well, and even by backing up to your story of, you guys sleeping on the rocks, which I've had my fair share of nights where you're, just freezing in a tent and, trying to get warm. That's obviously a whole nother ball game, but I'm guessing you guys were so like mentally fried at that point that it didn't matter where you were.
Pretty much. Yep. Yep. And I ate that next morning. Like I was saying, I'd force feed myself. I'd go, we have an entire day. I have a 150-pound pack. It's going to take us all day to pack it. I can't do this without food. My sister was so stressed she didn't eat. She packed that 100 pounds out, 8 miles without eating. She didn't eat the night before either. She was so sick she could not eat. And so that was pretty incredible to see that, what you're capable of, even when you're not eating food. Most people would think your body can't do that. You need the fuel. And it was just, there was nothing that mattered more to us than getting back to that tent at that point.
I would imagine you guys were just stuck in a fight or flight mode. Like there was just...
Yep.
I mean, you're on a whole different fuel system at that point.
Yeah. I mean, I slept probably 2 hours. I was just curled up on the rocks. When I woke up from my 2-hour nap, I looked over at Tana and she was in the fetal position on the riverbed, and she didn't sleep at all. And so she took it a little bit harder than I did, especially at the beginning there. And I mean, I obviously felt it too, but I was like, I have to eat, even though I wanted to throw it up, I was like, I have to.
Did anything surprise you about yourself in that moment? Like reflecting?
Yeah, kind of the instinct of shooting it with the pistol. Kind of blacked out a little bit, to be honest. Like most people are like, what were you thinking? Like I said, there was the oh crap moment before I had the shot where this is it. I can't believe this is where we're dying. Like that thought went through my head, and then it went through my sister's gonna, she had 5 kids. So all those things are running through my head. And so, I mean, even to the point where it's like, I'm going to be the one to take the bear first, or the bear to take me first, essentially, so that my sister has some time. I didn't have any kids. I wasn't married. It was like, I'm the one that should die in this scenario, kind of. And so that goes through your mind, but I really can't believe that my mind just took over. And in the video, when it even pans over to me, I looked pretty calm. And I didn't feel calm, but I kind of just blacked out, and just your body kind of takes over in some of those scenarios. And that's where I was saying I should probably practice more, where most people should probably practice more, is you want to be so comfortable that your body will just take over and do what it has to do, because you can't think in a setting like that. Like I was saying with that pistol was Adam's pistol, and it was to pop out the barrel. It was a double lever to pop out the barrel in that revolver. And I knew that, when I took the gun out, and I had played with it a bunch at his house. And in the moment, really, when I did that last shot, that barrel should have been popped open, and I should have been throwing 5 more in there. And I had to think about it. Like at first I looked at the gun and I was like, how do I get this open? I pushed the one lever and it didn't pop, and I'm like, how do I get this thing open? Because your brain's not thinking at that point in time. You're literally just in instinct mode. And so, it took me like 10 seconds to like, okay, oh no, I've got to push 2 levers to pop this barrel open. And, not in that instance, it would have taken me 1 second because I would have just known, but your brain wasn't really processing information at that point in time. It just goes into instinct mode.
It scares the living hell out of me. to think about it, because I'm so guilty of not practicing with my pistol. To your point with the archery thing, it's like, 100 arrows a day. When that bull's coming in, it's like getting it out of the quiver in, everything's ready to go is so second nature. Easy. Oh, it's a 60-yard shot. It's like, I practice that all the time. Dial it and I'm comfy. A bear at 20 yards with a pistol sounds easy to most.
Big target.
Until you go to the range and you try to shoot a plate at 20 yards. And you're like, oh, okay, this is not that. You can have a red dot. There's things to make it easier. But in that moment when you have a life or death thing coming in, it's like you hope, honestly, you hope to perform how you did. Where you're putting lead in it and you're
it worked out better than I could have imagined in that moment. I mean, I was imagining a lot worse things happening. That was kind of best case scenario after the rifle jammed.
I think it's better than a lot, because I even remember hearing a story from Steve Ranella that was talking about a grizzly coming into their camp. And they were out, there was like some special ops, like Marine guys, some other camp, however far away. And a grizzly came into their camp, and like, no more grizzly. That grizzly got shot immediately, and and those guys are obviously like equipped for it. And if I remember hearing the story right, like obviously he wasn't telling me, it was just like on some podcast or something, but he was like, there was a pistol, trekking poles, and they were like eating sandwiches. And he grabs the trekking poles and throws the trekking poles at it. And he like, in that story, he was so like disgusted with himself on like how he behaved in that red zone moment. And it's just, it's like so easy. Like, what, 90% of the population, if not 95% of the population, probably would have fetal positioned and just let that bear just maul him.
Well, it's kind of funny you bring that up, because for example, I even took my wife up there once, and I told her before we went out, if we see a bear, we're probably we're fishing. If we see a bear, don't run. It is in its instinct to chase you when you run. And so, I told her that before, and we're out fishing. She sees a bear. What does she do? She's running at me. There's a bear. There's a bear. And I'm like, don't run, stop. And so it's, that instinct sometimes isn't quite right. And when something bad happens, you want to be able to have that kick in. But at the same time, what we were talking about earlier about just being, like when you're getting started with hunting, you kind of can overthink that a little bit too much, to where you're like too worried to go in the woods too. And so, I would just practice a decent amount with your pistol. And if you do that, you'll be pretty good to go. And to be honest, like I said, I used to be a big guy that I was like, no, you don't pepper spray. I don't do pepper spray. I actually am kind of an advocate for pepper spray now a little bit, to an extent, because these bears, like where we were at, the only experience these bears have with humans is being hunted by them. So where a lot of people think, like, our bears in the lower 48, if we have a grizzly, they're problem bears, they're getting in people's, getting in their livestock, doing stuff like that. These bears, their experience with people is them being hunted by people. So these bears, if they smell a person from 5 miles away, they run the opposite direction. They run. And so this bear would have not came after us if it was not shot. And so that's where I go, the pepper spray, if you just have a bear that's doing a false charge on you or something like that, you're better off with pepper spray. It's really the scenario that it's coming to kill you that you need the gun, and that's where I say your 10 millimeter is not going to do it. And so it's not a very popular opinion, but it's just not going to do it.
I think, by no means, I don't think either of us are old people by any means, but I think like after kind of like the youthful, like the early 20s, it's one of those, like, I think for me it becomes this, like, I'm not above the whatever I have to do to stay like a good amount of safe. Like, I don't want to be so safe that I'm not having fun anymore, but I definitely, like, in that scenario with the bear, it's like, I'm sure now you would probably tell your younger self, like, yeah, you know what's really cool is getting almost mauled by one at 5 yards.
Right.
You know.
Yep.
And it's just that learning lesson.
Yep.
You know,
And it's like, yeah, my wife goes out. I give her if she's by herself, I give her the pepper spray, and I go that, you know, and wind is a bad variable with pepper spray. You know that you could get screwed if the wind's wrong, which you can't control the wind. So. Yeah, it's not a bad thing to pack both, I guess, in that scenario. But usually pepper spray will turn them around, you know, and where the gun, you shoot them once, if you're not killing them, it's going to try and kill you. And so you just have to be ready to unload your pistol. If you have a 10 millimeter and you take a shot at them, don't stop. Yeah. I mean, you have to be ready, unload them till that magazine is empty.
That's I think the part that a lot of folks like. I'm guilty of this. I think until I got a little more like acclimatized to the area. But you think an animal takes a shot from a bullet and they just die like the movie, or die like you would see somebody getting shot in a movie. You know, it's one bull and they're down, blown back. And it's like, I've seen a deer take a 308.
Right.
And, you know, they're charging up a hill and you're like, how is that possible?
Right.
And I think
a lot tougher than people.
A lot. I think anything wild is, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't personally want to throw hands with like a coyote.
Right.
Yeah, and they're tiny. You should be able to kick their ass. They're a little dog, basically. But it's just, yeah, I think living out there, they become so.
Life is survival.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, they're not on your time.
No, not at all. You know, and I think different animals are obviously tougher than others. I mean, or I guess not. I know that. But everything's different. You know, it's like bears; they have thinner hide. So if you're shooting a bear with a bow, it might not be as critical with your broadhead choice as if you're shooting an elk because of the hide. And so there's different things like that. But whereas that bear, I don't know if there's any science to this or anything like that. I kind of came up with a theory afterwards. And when they're in their dens, they're living off such low oxygen. You know what I mean? They're barely breathing. They're in an enclosed den. They're living off of nothing, essentially. I mean, they're not eating. They're just barely breathing. And this bear had just gotten out of its den. And it was kind of in that sleepy stage still, where it's just moving, and then it would just lay down for 15 hours and then get up and move a little bit. And I don't know, because I had a lung shot, and something with the lung shot should not run like that. And the only thing I could think of, I mean, it was probably a single lung. The only thing I could think of was that they can live a little while without oxygen. And I don't know if there's any science to that or not, but it just kept coming. I mean, and you can see in the video, it's spraying blood out of its mouth, out of both sides, and it's coming. And you're like, normally it's laying there at that point, and I don't know what happened.
It would be curious if there's something with like when they're in that state, their either blood is so, you know, not oxygen rich, but in a way it's like compensating for it. There has to be some science behind that, and then as well as just what adrenaline, which I'm assuming is what was pounding through that bear, that it's like. I mean, it's almost that same kind of thing of like that, you know, mom that ends up lifting a car off her daughter.
Right.
And it's like that in every other sense of the world, that's never going to happen until that one thing, and they can do something kind of superhuman.
Yep.
And I would never want to be on the receiving end of that with a bear.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, a thing that I learned with bear hunting is you don't shoot one above you. You know, if there's one if you're shooting one that you're scared, that you would be scared of, don't shoot it above you. You know, if there's a black bear up at the hill, it's probably fine. But if you're in the snow, they can move ground so fast downhill in the snow. If we were above it, I don't think it ever could have got to us. Yeah. Because it would have just been pumping blood out of both sides, and it wouldn't have been able to get up the hill. But coming down the hill, I mean, it's like a sled for a bear in the snow. You know, it's just kind of just push along. And you'll see them, when you're up there, you'll see them sliding around. I mean, they know how to work the snow to their advantage. Yeah. And they'll slide around it.
It's insane. Like, I mean, even this one, you know, 1,000-pound bear, it's like they're still so playful.
Yep.
And they're kind of like, you know, just furry little, not little, but, you know, from afar. Like, oh, the bear's just doing its thing. And then it turns it on.
Yep.
And it's no longer. Oh, man. I think for somebody like myself that I want to get up there. I think I need to get really comfortable with a pistol.
Well, on a lot of things, I mean, the reality is most people, unless you have a sibling up there or something, you'll end up having a guide with you to where they'll keep you safe. You know, those guys are so experienced up there that they know how to do that. And so, that's kind of where it's a little bit more dangerous, kind of doing it that way when you don't have a technical guide, you know. And so, for most people, if you're going to Alaska, the biggest thing is just making enough money to hunt up there because it's gotten expensive. And so if you're not doing it with a sibling or something like that, you're going to be forking out tens of thousands of dollars per hunt. And
memories of a lifetime, though.
They are for sure. And so, that's all I'm saying is just, you've got to make some money and find the right guide if you're doing one of those hunts. If you're doing caribou or something like that, or moose, even do it yourself. You can do it. They've got the people up there that can fly you into a spot, and it's just like anything, trial and error until you figure it out.
So like I kind of shared my dream, which, I mean, you've clearly lived what I'm striving to do at some point, but do you still have like a dream hunt?
Yes, I do. And unfortunately, it just keeps getting more expensive, but stone sheep. Stone sheep's one that I really want to get. That's going to be probably the Grand Slam sheep that I don't get, I'm afraid of. Unless I can figure out something or move to Canada someday. Because that's kind of, that one is, I can't quite justify spending $100,000 on a hunt, no matter, I'd have to have a lot of money to just make that justification.
Yeah. But walk me through, like, what's that hunt like? I mean, I'm not even to the point yet where I'm considering sheep and other things like that, or the high alpine stuff.
Yeah, so it kind of can go a little bit both ways. Like, it's a weird dynamic that I kind of like hunting them because I'm scared of heights. And so you wouldn't think that, but like with this Dall sheep right here, me and Adam both got him opening morning, and his sheep they were side by side, 2 rams side by side. I shot mine, he shot his, mine rolled down the right side of the hill, his rolled down the left side of the hill. And it was, Adam's scared of heights worse than me. Surprised, you wouldn't think so being a pilot like he is, but when he's on the ground, he's scared of heights worse than me. And we got up above that, and he goes, "I'm not going down there. You're going to have to go down there and get it." And so that's a dynamic that happens with mountain goats, sheep, is you're hunting them in cliffs. That's where they live. They're comfortable up there. I'm not comfortable up there, but that's where you're hunting them. And so you have to try to work with that a little bit. And in that instance, I mean, I ended up rolling it, and I was about to be to a helpless point where I didn't even know what to do, where I thought we would almost have to leave the sheep. And there was one last roll. I was kind of on a shale cliff, and right below me there was like a 100-foot drop. And so I couldn't get too close to the edge of the shale because it's all loose. I can't really get my footing. And so I pretty much told Adam, I screamed at the top, and I'm like, I have one more attempt at flipping this thing, and I don't know what to do. Because I had tried flipping it twice, and all I needed to do was get a little bit of momentum, and then it'd go off the 100-foot cliff, and we could go work it up at the bottom. And so the last flip just got it enough. It started sliding down the shale, and then it went over the edge, and we were able to get that out. But those high alpine animals just have a different dynamic of just everything to it. I mean, you can kill yourself really easily. I have multiple scenarios where you just have to have a limit that you won't cross.
Yeah.
And my family hasn't been good at that with hunting. It's like, if there's an animal there, we should be able to go get it. And so, which obviously was like that with the bear. And once you get to those cliff animals, you have to have a line. And my sheep, we did a Kodiak mountain goat hunt, and we did it all. That was the only Stuck in the Rut hunt that we've done all together, and that was really cool mountain goat hunt. And it was the first main day of hunting. We got 3 good billies. I got a good billy, wow. Travis got a good billy, and Adam got a good billy. And so we're working them up, and Travis's fell down a worse part of the hill. Again, if you're always working with where they fall, if they just dropped where you shot them, you'd be fine, which is what mine did, right on top of the hill. It's perfect. And his slid down the backside of the mountain. So Travis, which is the family member that's the least scared of heights and the most to just run into those kind of things. And I had been telling him on that hunt, be careful, this stuff's sketchy, you know. And we were coming out with his. He had a lot more on his back than we had at that point because we were going to pick up ours on the way out. And he slid down this hill a long ways with the backpack on his back. And he got to the point he had to like ditch the bag because he's just sliding down this hill really fast, and he had to unbuckle the bag while he was sliding down the hill. And luckily he stopped and the bag stopped before it went off the cliff. But those are the kind of things that happen. And again, once we got to where our goats were killed, I had a full goat on my back with head and horns, shoulder cape. Adam had a whole goat. Travis had a whole goat. And Travis had a full cape even with his because he was going to do a full mount. And we were on the top of a mountain in the dark. You know what I mean? And so then you have to like we had a couple ropes that we had a couple sections that we had to kind of belay bags down because it was just, you're not getting down that with a whole goat on your back. And so there was sections of that we had to do in the dark, and you just really have to figure it out. A lot of the times you're just figuring it out. But those high alpine animals, you have to have a line that you won't cross.
Yeah.
Because they will kill you if you're just we can make it up there because they're up there attitude.
Does that ever really motivate you? And maybe you guys are, but like really like trained up on kind of rock climbing, rappelling.
We're not. We should be, but we're not. Yeah, we're not. We definitely should be more. Just because especially if you're doing more of those hunts, but they're so expensive hunts too. I don't really plan on doing too many of them. Like I said, kind of my main goal was to get a Grand Slam. That's kind of my life goal for hunting is to get a Grand Slam. So I did the Doll and I got my bighorn last year in Idaho. And so now I have a desert bighorn in the Stone. And so those are the two. We'll see if I can ever make it happen, but desert bighorn, I'll probably go to Mexico or something, get that one. And then Stone, we'll see if I ever win a drawing or something incredible.
I mean, is it 100 grand Canadian?
It's not quite 100 yet, but it literally goes up like 20 grand a year. Like it was literally like 4 years ago, it was like 40. And I was like, oh, I could maybe do that someday. Then it went to 60, then it went to 70. Now it's like 80. And it's just like, okay, well, that's probably, it's the inflation's happening too quick on it. I don't think I'm ever going to catch up.
That is one part I would be really curious to kind of hear your thoughts on I feel like a lot of hunting these days has gotten really expensive, depending on, like, I think the way that, I don't want to say you or I, because you're on such a different level than me, but I feel like for us, it's like a lot more sweat equity with public land.
Yep,
and you're getting out and you're doing it. But then it feels like there's so much tied into big bulls in New Mexico, Arizona, getting these public land tags or landowner permits that are 40 grand, 20 grand to, get your whatever 350 inch bull.
Yep.
Like, what do you have to say to that kind of stuff? Because I know that was like one of the things that I know you're very prideful of, and you even showed me in this trophy room, is like, there's one thing on this wall that's a high fence animal, and it's a red stag from New Zealand, which is like, okay, like, I wouldn't even know where to begin in New Zealand. But to see all of these other ones that I know you've taken in an area that seemingly I would have the same opportunity to go get.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it kind of sucks just because my dad used to tell us when we were kids, hunting is going to be a rich man's sport someday. And we're almost there. You can still, if we're lucky enough to live where we can do it, right? And so with that aspect, that's where you can do it affordably, is if you're living somewhere that you can go do it on a Saturday morning, it doesn't cost you too much. You don't need all the best gear. You don't need all that stuff to go hunting. I mean, when my dad goes with us still, he wears a Cabela's microfiber button-up from, and slippers. Like, I mean, you really don't need the best of the best to get out there and get your feet wet. And so, it's one of those things that's just kind of where the industry's going. We put in for all the states that you can put in for, building points, those sort of things. That's the best way to do it if you don't plan on spending big money someday. I was kind of telling you before we started this a little bit, because we kind of do pride ourselves on it being mostly public land, do-it-yourself hunts. I honestly don't get the satisfaction of killing one on a ranch. There is no satisfaction to me.
It seems novelty.
Yeah, I don't really know what it is, but yeah, it's just, it doesn't feel like you earned it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just, there's something that comes along with when you put in that time and energy and then you actually get one that is rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
And even just for your own self-confidence, you know what I mean? It's really rewarding when you get something yourself. If you're going guided and you're spending the money to go one of those big ranches, it's just not the same experience. It's going to be luxury. You can have some pretty cool stuff. If that's what you're going for, that's fine. But if you're going for something that's a really fulfilling hunt, the public land does it for me quite a bit more.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Now, granted, is that more my wallet speaking, or is that like how I really feel? I do think it's how I really feel, because I think part of me is like, I love just meeting them in their medium.
Yep.
And it's like, they're so much better than you in the woods.
Right.
And it's like, you have to find that one slip up, or just do that one right thing that one day.
Yep.
And I don't think I would give anything to kind of have, or to replace that feeling of like something easy coming in. It's like even up at my property, we have some great deer genetics that come through, and it's awesome. Opening day, you go back with a bow and you're kind of like waiting to take your pick, because they use the power line behind us that, they just use it to go back and forth to this kind of like sanctuary of 200 acres behind us.
Yep.
That is just, nobody hunts it, nobody lives on it, they just are there.
Right.
So it's like, and that's still deemed as like it's a private, but it's our private.
Yeah, right.
It's cool, but it's like that on the wall doesn't mean anything near the bull on the wall that I had to like struggle and suffer for.
Right.
Yep. Which I think I think that part is awesome. And I think if you live in a state like you were saying, Idaho, Montana, anywhere Mountain West, really, you should get out and do it.
Yeah, you should. It's just one of those things. It's just like I was saying. I mean, if you're into adrenaline, there is a lot of adrenaline there. And so that's whereas with the rifle, there's not quite as much. It's a little bit easier to get into the rifle type of thing, but you just don't get the same adrenaline that you do. And I mean, just go out and start calling for help. There's so many videos on YouTube now and stuff like that. It's like you were saying a little bit earlier with, like my family helped teach us a lot. And so there was a lot of learning from my brothers, but then there's a lot of trial and error. Most of the time, since I've been probably over 16, I've been solo hunting, especially locally. And so it's not because, it is kind of because I don't like hunting with people. But a lot of the times it's just talking about success, time on the mountain. If you have 3 guys that all want to kill an elk this year, you can't all go together.
Yeah.
Because one guy might get one. You're all helping one guy get one. And so that's where a lot of our videos have ended up being 360 and GoPro videos, because we need to split up. We've got a month of elk season. I've got to go kill one. Tom's got to go kill one. And Trav's got to go kill one. So you end up splitting up, hunting by yourself a lot, which is fun.
Yeah.
I mean, there is nothing better than a one-on-one elk encounter. There is nothing better. If you have somebody back behind you, it's cool, but it is not the same. When you are sitting there and you bugle and he responds to you, and it's this feeling like you feel like you're fooling him.
Yes.
You're going, which you essentially are, but you just go, it thinks I'm one of them. And there is a cool feeling that comes with that.
Yes.
When you have an elk at 10 yards and you go, this thing literally thinks I'm one of them. I fooled it. And it's a cool feeling, because you see elk when you're driving in the road or a deer or whatever, and it's just, it sees you, they run, or it's calm when it sees you because they're so used to it. It's not the same experience. It doesn't think you're an elk. It's just either not scared of you or not scared of your car or whatever. But when one's actually coming into you thinking I mean, this is either a bull I'm going to fight or this is a cow I'm going to, it's a different experience.
Yeah. Are you familiar with the elk nut, like slow play method, like early season?
Nope.
He preaches it. I kind of thought it was bullshit, to be honest, but I'm still like, I'm so new to it that I'm willing to try anything once,
Yep.
to see if it works. And so the whole method is like, you're not bugling to the bull early season. This isn't like when they're already rounding cows up. This is like bulls sizing bulls up beginning of the season to kind of see like who they got to fight off, what the pecking order is.
Yep.
And you kind of simulate that you have something going with a cow. So you're pretty much playing the cow and the bull. You're not bugling. You're doing a lot more like grunts and moans and kind of like getting stirred up.
Yep.
And then you really are playing the cow calling to the other bull. And kind of like, hey, get over here. This bull is bothering me, and I want you, not him.
Yep.
And it's kind of eerie because it worked so well that, like, in this moment, it's like, all right, here. And he's like, and then the bull should bugle. And I'm doing it. The bull bugles. And I'm like, no fucking way. and then it happens, and it's like you're playing this whole, like, social game with this thing. And it's like at the end of it, like, yeah, it took a while. It is a slow play. It took, I think, almost 45 minutes to an hour to get that bull to actually cut the distance, but ends up cutting 300 yards in. And that was the one that hung up at 20 that I just got way too overly anxious for and tried to step out and get a shot. And so I'm curious, like, what's your go-to for like early season? I'd love to hear just kind of like your thinking on how animals act in the woods.
So elk is usually the main thing I'm going for, and a lot of people do a lot of scouting. Tons of guys have tons of game cams out. They've got their eyes on bulls, whatever. I do very minimal scouting, and my reason for that is bulls move the first week of season. And so if you're spending your time in June, in July, in August, just putting on tons of miles, putting up game cameras, doing all that stuff, you're finding elk in their summer ground. And it's cool. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's cool to have some big bulls on camera and that sort of thing. But the second September comes around, they're gone. And so the first week of September, they smell a cow in heat. They're in 3 drainages over from where you just had 1,000 pictures of them this summer. And so I don't do a ton of scouting, and I also don't want to burn myself out for hunting season. So if I'm out hiking around all July, August, I'm just like, by the time hunting season gets here, I'm like, another 10-mile day, And I kind of just like to hit hunting season hard. So I start early. I honestly, like you were just talking, some bugling technique, that stuff helps a lot. I honestly don't know that much about that kind of stuff. Most people would think that I do. Again, I'm a miles guy. I just put in miles. I don't like to deal with elk that don't want to play.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of guys that'll just like, oh, okay, well, they'll be like, I've been dealing with this bull for 2 weeks and I just can't get him to come in. And I'm like, you're going to the same spot for 2 weeks? Like, that's my question when I hear that. Because I literally, like, I don't usually go to the same spot twice. I go to a spot, I try to get some locate bugles. I do usually the early season. I do some more cow calling. I don't get too crazy with the technique. I probably should learn more of that. And that's what's great about YouTube now is you can go on YouTube, like you said. There's guys that can tell you so much information about stuff. My brothers just did an elk class on 360 Sportsman. So there's the classes now. If you want to learn the techniques from guys that have done the trial and error, it's there. I'm just stubborn, and I just have to just learn things myself through trial and error. And it even my brother sometimes will kind of be hard on me for some of that stuff because I do things differently than they do. Again, I don't go to the same spot twice. No elk here. Granted, there's pretty much always probably elk there, but the bull didn't want to play, and so I don't want to hang out in here if this bull doesn't want to play.
Which I feel is so fair because, I mean, to anybody that has done it and knows it, it's like you can get a bull to bugle, but you can definitely tell if that bull's
if he's fired up or not.
Yeah, if they're just lazy and they give you like a quick little chuckle and then that's the last you hear of it.
Yep.
It's like he hasn't moved. He's still in there.
Yep.
He's just not.
There's guys that love that dance, that love that 2-hour dance sitting there and working him. And usually if I get one that shuts up like that, what I do is I'll keep hiking and I'll come back. About 2:00 in the afternoon is a great time to call bulls. People don't usually think that, and it's really weird. I don't understand why. It's kind of the heat of the day, but I can't tell you how many times I've been going into a spot, working a bull in the morning, like 8:00 in the morning. He shuts up, and I'm like, oh, well, he's done for the day. Keep hiking, keep hiking, keep hiking. You know, a lot of times we hike for that long. And so sometimes you'll be hiking out about 2:00, going past the same spot, and that same bull will fire up, and a lot of times that's when they come in. And so it's kind of a weird time. Most people think.
You think it just gets stir crazy?
I think they bed down. I think they get hot, and I think they get hot from the morning when they're bugling, and I think they're just cooling down. I think they go bed down and cool down, take a little break. If you watch a bull bugle hot, if you can get eyes on one and bugle hot, they are exhausted. I mean, if you're like looking across a draw and there's a bull bugling, they're running half the time when they're bugling. They'll be running back and forth, and they just have their mouth open. I mean, and you can even see them sometimes when they shut up. If you're in a spot you can glass, you'll watch them bed down and just stop bugling. And that's why they're stopped bugling. It's not because they want to. They're just sitting there with their tongue hanging out. They're just so tired.
Just beat up. Yeah, the rut's tough on them. That's for dang sure. It's so interesting, the different styles, because, I mean, the age-old, like, how many different ways there is to skin a cat or whatever.
Yep.
And I do feel like it's the same way with bulls. There's 100 different ways to get in on them or be around them. You know, like somebody, like a Dan Staton, for instance, who preaches a lot of, like, just not calling very much.
Yep.
Soft cow calls. Really, you just don't want that bull to even know you exist.
Right.
You know, so you can work into its deal.
Yep.
And it's like me being so new and really just like during season, it's, I think almost half the fun is just trying these new things and like, oh my God, that worked. Or, you know, this is crap. Like, I haven't seen anything, you know, and I know there's animals in here. But then it's also like the day. Like one day they just all are quiet. The next day they're hammered off and
that's why I say I like to get one that wants to play, you know, and it's just it's kind of just a different experience that it's up to preference. You know, there's certain people that is a really cool dance for them to sit there and talk one into coming in. And if I knew how to do it, it probably would be pretty cool to me. But for me, it's just, I know how to put on miles, and I like the bulls that I throw a bugle and his bugle's there and his next bugle is half the distance and his next bugle is half the distance. Yeah. Those are the really fun ones for me. And it kind of plays to me not having much patience. And so, you know, that's the thing for me. I don't sit much. A lot of guys, that's their techniques. They'll sit and cow call and just listen, and they'll get a bull that comes in silent. Super cool if you do that and you're successful. Just not the method that I enjoy, really. You know, I like that dance, just bugling back and forth with one, and he's coming in to fight me. That's a pretty cool dance.
I suffer from like some probably ADHD or whatever it is, where like I have to keep moving. Yep. And it's like so I'm a Midwest boy that came west and like deer hunting over there. It's all tree stand and you're sitting for the entire day. Yep. And it is like the most mind-numbing style of hunting. Now, granted, amazing when stuff's happening. Right. But you can go hours with nothing. Yep. And you're not moving, you're not making a sound. Like, it's coming west and going into the woods where it's like you can actually just walk normal in the woods, and calling can actually help sometimes, and raking things actually bring them in. You know, you're like, this is so foreign. Yep. But it totally plays to the people, I think, that are, that want to just keep moving and kind of get out there and do stuff. Yep. Which is why it's like, I think even if a day you don't get into a bull, it's still kind of that much more fun than sitting in a stand. It
is. Yeah. And I've never been much of a stand guy. I've killed a couple whitetails in stands when I was young, and it just didn't quite do it for me. I mean, it was cool, but it just, if I could get something that was an absolute giant, I would probably do it. Yeah. But it just doesn't get that exciting to me. Just sitting there and waiting. I can't stay still. I get cold real easy. And so I've got to stay moving or else I'm just freezing.
All right. I want to jump to so Stuck in the Rut. Kind of want to hear, your take on really like the niche you guys have carved out. I think the YouTube space is so saturated with a lot of people, a lot of different styles of content. I mean, outside of the success you guys have and the animals and what you guys are doing and how raw it is, it's not something that other people can't do.
Right.
But you guys have managed to make it successful.
Yeah, and it is hard without like having a full-time cameraman or something like that. It is tough because, like I said, we're just all doing it ourselves, trying to figure that out. YouTube, we got into it early enough that we've been pretty successful with YouTube, just getting traction on there. It's just one of those things. Yeah, it's just you don't have near the cinematic product that some of the other guys have. It used to bug me, when I was a little bit younger, because I always had this idea in my head of what the picture could look like, and the implementation of editing just wasn't there for me, knowing how to do that. And so I always had this idea, and it kind of bothered me, and then it kind of ended up turning into kind of one of the things that people enjoyed about watching our videos was that they were real and they were raw and they knew we weren't faking things. You can watch a lot of hunting videos and you can see, okay, that was a fake shot and that was a fake, you know what I mean? Afterwards, they'll take these little fake videos and put them together and try and make them look real or whatever. And we just didn't really want to do that. And so thankfully, there's been enough people that were interested in watching our stuff that it's been able for us to keep it going. And we like to get to the point we could get a cameraman or something and just have a little bit better quality, but for now it's still pretty raw.
Yeah. I actually, one of my last guests, Cam, who's, in the adventure filmmaking space, that's kind of his deal. It's like crazy cinematic, amazing stuff. And I was kind of talking with him after we got off, and it's just so interesting, like even from a viewing standpoint, it's like your guys' style of video, which is raw, and it makes you feel like you're there as just somebody like looking over the shoulder, like watching this whole thing transpire, versus where you see like certain things like an ultra cinematic piece on this elk hunt that you're like, I don't even feel like I have the funds to be able to even like be in the ballpark of being able to do this.
Right.
Let alone the cinematic masterpiece that this is and the guides and, all of this stuff. It's like, it's not something I even feel like I want to or can strive for.
Yeah.
Which I think is like where it's so unique, where it's like, and guess what? Your guys' video is getting the same, if not more views than this piece.
Yep.
So it's so interesting to me on like the different styles of video and how they're rewarded through viewership.
Yeah.
So for you guys, I'm curious on like what's next for Stuck in the Rut.
We're kind of just coming up with new ideas and stuff right now. We don't have anything big on the horizon right now, other than we just try to stay consistent with being successful. I'd say that's probably a big part of us doing well on YouTube has been that there's enough of us and that we're pretty consistently successful. That's what I was talking about with just amount of time in the mountains. If you don't do that, you're going to have a hard time being consistently successful, which if you have a video that doesn't have talking about success again, yes, you can have success without having a kill on the ground. When it comes to YouTube, you can't, right? A YouTube video without killing something, we're not posting that on YouTube.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't mean that we don't have fun or we don't enjoy the time out there, but it's not something that we're like, oh, we got to get this on YouTube. We just try to do real stuff. You probably notice on the YouTube channel, there's not a bunch of fluff. We don't do all these different little videos of just what we're doing that day and, packing or whatever. It's mostly hunts. And yeah, we kind of just try to keep it that way. We're kind of action filled.
Yeah. I do think that's a proponent to, like, I think the fluff stuff, like when it's cinematically shot and it's, looks so cool. That's one thing. I think just filming it on the side, it's a whole different ball game. I mean, honestly, I still I wouldn't sleep on some of that stuff because that's the stuff that so many people are like, these guys are like us,
Right.
yet look at the success they're having.
Yeah.
You know, and it's definitely one of those like motivators. And I think it's cool too. I mean, just meeting you today, you know, it's one of those where like, I think your personality, even on when you are doing, you know, the action stuff is great. But like even out of the action stuff, it's like, shoot, I'd care to see that still.
Yeah. Well, see, and I just never know what people would like to see. And so, yeah, I'm kind of weird with that. I don't post much or do, you know, I don't get involved with that enough probably with the business that we're in. Yeah, I could probably get a little bit better with posting things. And keeping
what I think though
loop.
is so awesome though is the amount of success you guys have with how raw the footage is.
Yeah. Well, are as normal guys as they come. I think that's what a lot of people probably don't understand. You know,
that's probably what they love about it, though, or what I love about it.
It could be, yeah. And a lot of people, you know, probably think that we come from a lot of money or something like that to have the abilities that we have. We don't. You know, it's like I said, I work with my mom. She's a realtor. We're business partners. My brother Tom logs usually, brush grinds sometimes. You know, kind of does his own little thing here and there. My sister obviously has got 12 different businesses going up in Alaska that she's got going. And so they kind of live a little bit more expensive of a lifestyle just because you're in Alaska, you have no choice, you know, and
you pay to play up there.
Yeah, you've got the plane as your car, you know, and stuff like that. And that's just what you have to do. But yeah, we're just normal guys. We have fairly normal jobs and it's just, you've just got to get out there.
Yeah, you're just about the life.
Yep.
Which is, I appreciate the hell out of it.
Yep.
Have you looked much into the flying and getting into that stuff?
Yeah, so I don't like to really tell people because I don't have my license yet, but I actually own a plane with my brother. So I feel kind of like a loser because I don't have my license yet, but I have pretty much all my training done and have to do my tests.
Sure.
But I do have a plane with my brother Travis that we bought a couple years ago, and he's been getting it real dialed in the last couple years, and so it is pretty much a primo backcountry machine now.
That is incredible.
So yeah,
are there, and this is like, pardon my ignorance, but there's a ton of airfields all over Idaho.
Idaho, I think, is one of the most, if not the most, in the lower 48 for backcountry strips. So Idaho is loaded with them. Montana's got a lot too, but yeah, there is a lot of flexibility of things that you can do if you have a plane.
Yeah.
It's fun. I mean, we hopped in last year and just go fly to a river, you know, you just go land on a grass strip on the side of a river and you're getting to fish where nobody, you know, very few people get to fish. And so, of course, the fishing is great. And so it's just stuff like that. It makes it really fun. And that's kind of partially the reason I haven't really got my license yet is because kind of one of the people I like to be really good at something once I tackle it. And so I just haven't really had the money and time to tackle it to get really good at it yet. And so, and for now, Travis is such a good backcountry pilot. If I want to go somewhere, usually I'm going with him.
Sure.
And so it's just, I wouldn't be flying anyways. He would be the one flying if we're going somewhere like that.
And you're able to if for hunting purposes too, like you can fly into those remote strips and just hunt out of the plane, and as long as it's not commercial, right? Or like you're paying, having paid people to come on the plane to hunt.
Yep. So yeah, we can do that. We do that a decent amount. You usually have to draw tags to get to where, you know, you really could use the plane.
Sure.
So it was like my bighorn sheep last year, you know, but it makes it to where we can put in for units that are better for flying, you know, whereas other people, if they need to put in for a unit that they have to drive to, might be a harder unit to get a tag for, or might be just a harder unit to hunt in general.
It just changes the whole lens of how you're looking at it.
It does. But it's still, you know, a lot of people look at it as a slam dunk too, and it is not a slam dunk. I mean, you're in the plane, you can see things, but it doesn't do any of the killing for you. It does zero of the killing for you. And
that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, so a lot of the times people, they just will balk about it. Oh, you've got a plane, of course you can kill an elk every year. And it's like, doesn't really correlate, that much unless I was shooting it out of the plane, I guess, or something.
They hit it on the strip.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, so yeah, it's one of those things. But flying is cool. It's an experimental airplane, so we've been able to throw some pretty cool goodies on it too.
Oh man, that's because can you put shocks and stuff like that on not a non-experimental?
No. I don't know if you could on a Super Cub. I don't know if those are approved to be able to do them on those without an experimental. But our plane has shocks, and it was a prototype from Shock Monster that my brother worked with Shock Monster on to build. And so he did all the measurements. Shock Monster would send him stuff, and they went back and forth on everything to build a suspension kit really for a 185. The goal was so that Shock Monster could start selling a 185 suspension kit.
Sure.
Because right now, Super Cubs are pretty much the only thing that has a good suspension kit like that.
Which is such a premium. I mean, gosh, they're the KTMs of flying.
Oh yeah, so yeah, I mean, Super Cubs are awesome, depending on what you're doing. As far as backcountry, it's like you fly with Adam, and Super Cub is an extension of his arms. With
sure.
And for me, flying up there, it's just a complete different experience. I did all my training flying down here, and I was always a little bit scared of the plane. You just have this feeling like you're flying a machine, and you have to kind of flip that switch into where you become one with the machine. And it took me flying with Adam to see that. Because you'll be coming down into a grass strip and you think, we're not getting down there. And he starts doing things and you make it down there. And when we were looking for sheds up there, we go looking for sheds out of the plane in the Cub, which is an absolute blast. And looking for sheds, you find some sheds, and then now it's time to try to find where we could land this thing. And I mean, there is no strips, like even anything remotely close. So when this comes up, you're literally like, you're trying to find the least rough patch of tundra that there is, which all of tundra is rough. It looks flat from the air. It is far from flat. I mean, I haven't seen a field of any kind that has it doesn't matter how many gophers you have, it does not have the amount of bumps that tundra has. And even with the shocks, every landing pretty much feels like a car crash when you're looking for sheds in that thing. But that's what those things are built for. I mean, they're workhorses. They are just built to work. And so our central goal was to try to make a Super Cub of a bigger airplane, kind of.
It's a Cessna, right? 180?
It's a 185. So ours is technically called a Super Cyclone 185. It's a kit build experimental of a Cessna 185.
Okay.
And so
still a tail dragger though?
Still a tail dragger, yep. And then we also put on a 210 tail on it, which for extra float, a little bit of extra slow flight.
Sure.
And then we put wing extensions on it. We've done some pretty cool things.
That is incredible. I'm so at the infancy of it, but one of my buddies, Essex, who I had on, I think he was the first guest we had.
Yeah, I listened.
And he's kind of like do you know Essex at all?
I don't know him personally. We've chatted a little bit on Instagram and stuff back and forth. I don't know him personally, but I followed him for a while. And
it's just everything the guy does is just dialed.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously
that's what it looks like.
His skiing, his other stuff, it's like you kind of all of a sudden see he's into flying, and then it's the next thing you see is he's up flying for an outfit in Alaska, right. And you're like, dang, man. It's just, but he's always on the go and he's always doing some crazy, crazy stuff. And I was talking with him at a buddy's wedding, and he was just telling me all about the flying. And then all of a sudden, I think my phone picked up on the conversation, and then it just started feeding me flying clips from, folks in Alaska, other bush stuff. And I'm just it would be so insane to do. And now I'm starting to get opened up to more people yourself, that it's I'm looking and I'm going into it. And I'm on the verge of biting the bullet. I think my wife is dude, can you just slow down? And one less hobby would be so awesome for us.
Yeah, I know how that is.
Yeah, how do you balance all of the hobbies you got? From a personal level. For me, it's it seems one day I'm fishing, the next day I'm hunting, the next day I'm dirt biking, then snowmobiling.
It's a battle. It is a battle constantly. What fun am I going to go have today? Such a hard problem to have, right?
But a bunch of first world issues right here. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, no kidding. I used to. I kind of started to get into backcountry snowboarding pretty big. Now it's probably like 6 years ago or 7 years ago. So I was getting into backcountry snowboarding pretty big, which I was having an absolute blast with. And my buddy that I did it with really heavily ended up passing away. And so I haven't really been tackling the splitboarding near as much as I used to. And so, yeah, I mean, it used to be like a constant battle for me every weekend. Am I going splitboarding or snowmobiling? You know, that was a big dilemma when it's the snow's good and you're like, in splitboarding, you have a lot of not downtime, but just skinning time. And so where I would always end up talking myself into snowmobiling is I would be like, okay, well, it's really fun coming down on a snowboard, but I have 5 hours of hiking that's not the most fun. Whereas I could snowmobile and have a blast from the time that I get off the road. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh.
And so for that, I end up picking snowmobiling most of the time. And that's why I was kind of, Essex you were talking about, I was kind of talking to him about some different lines that I had kind of scoped out around in this county and stuff like that. And I still haven't gotten out with him yet, but yeah, that's kind of my problem is every time I'm like, oh man, the snow's great. I just want to pick up the sled and go.
I feel like that's like with mountain biking and dirt biking.
Yeah.
It's like I love mountain biking. And at one point in my life, like that was what I was doing all the time.
Yep.
And then it's like, but I have an hour and a half climb and then like a 20-minute descent.
Right.
But I could have like a really great hour climb on a dirt bike.
Yep.
And then have another hour ride back and then I'm having fun the whole time.
Yep.
And it was always like, yeah, I always just had like that battle, and usually dirt biking wins.
Yep.
The only time it doesn't if it's like lift access, and
yep.
I get that like constant, up at Whistler or something like that.
Yep.
But I think we live in such a cool area where you can do all of these things.
Right.
Which is, I feel rare. I mean, maybe I'm just jaded to that fact, but it just seems like everything we have here is like so at our fingertips, and we don't have to travel far.
Yep. Yeah, no, it makes it really nice. I mean, recently, kind of the thing I've been getting into is it's not a Sur-Ron, but most people know what a Sur-Ron is. And so it's an E-Ride Pro. It's a different brand. It's a little bit juiced up for power. And I've been getting into that a lot because really it's like you're saying, downhill biking's fun. I don't like pedaling back uphill. And so unless I'm at a resort or something like that, I'm like not having that much fun if I'm spending the whole day pedaling. So now I have a Sur-Ron. I get great up runs and down runs. And so I've kind of put some good suspension on that and had fun with that. Yeah, I've been having a blast with that in the summertime. Jet boat, we've been taking the jet boat out a bunch.
Oh,
that's fun.
Don't even tell me about it because I want to hear it. But God, that's another one that it's like, it's on the list.
And that's why the list of hobbies just gets more and more expensive the more you add things to it. The thing I could say with that is it helps if you have some people that you can share it with.
Sure.
So kind of like our Stuck in the Rut, how we do with that, we like to share some of our toys too. So it's like I was talking about with the plane, me and my brother being able to get that really brings down like the yearly cost for somebody to own an airplane when you get to split it.
Yeah.
And so those kind of things help a ton. It's same with the boat, but you have to do it with people that you trust. And so it's not that you're going to, if you got some guy that always breaks things, you don't want to own a boat with him. Yeah, he could be a good buddy, but that's not the guy you partner up on a boat with. And so that's kind of helped us to get into some more toys, is being able to buy things together. And so we'll do that in some instances, but of course my snowmobiles and dirt bikes and everything is all just me.
I love it. Well, hey man, before we roll, I got kind of one last. It's kind of a big question. You can answer it. I just am curious to hear your answer from kind of your point, the success you've had is, why should people hunt?
For hunting, I'd probably say, well, I don't want to totally advocate for it because I don't want so much competition in the woods, but at the same time, it's something I think everybody should experience. there's nothing really in our current world that gets your primal instincts going like hunting does, especially archery hunting. Just because, again, that close to close contact you have with the animals. And in this current world that we live in, where everything is cell phones and you're watching something, maybe you think that watching something on YouTube that you're going to get a similar feeling or something like that. You're not. So go experience it is all I can say. I mean, just go try. And it's one of those things you're not going to do well at the start. Just go hike. That's all we're doing most of the time is hiking in the woods. I mean, if you fail, if you're worried about it, don't tell anybody. I mean, I've had ones where I didn't even tell my family about because I'm like, oh man, I'm not going to tell my brothers about that one. That was a screw up that my brothers they will just say, what were you thinking? And it's just going to be embarrassing. I'm just going to keep that loss to myself. And so that happens plenty. And if you're worried about people knowing your mess ups, then don't tell people. But it's one of those things you're just not going to learn it unless you try it. And there's nothing else like it out there.
Yeah. And not being afraid to mess up. Because I mean, you're even saying like you still have moments where you're, make the wrong choice or decision and it bites you.
Yep.
And I mean,
you sometimes can't, you cannot read their mind. Sometimes I want him to come down the right side of me. He comes down the left side of me. Those are things that you just can't control. And you have to kind of look at that and go, well, I should have been in that other spot, and be humble about it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, then you're going to, the couple years that I've went into them with, I'm going to kill an elk this year, I don't kill an elk. you cannot go into it with, I am going to be successful, because you won't be able, and you'll end up stressing yourself out. Yeah. Best way to do is just go out, go for a hike, have fun, capture that picture of the sunset when you don't see anything.
Well, yeah, I mean, I hope I don't get too many of those sunsets and we're into stuff this year, but I love that philosophy, man. And it sounds like, I mean, I know today is the only day I've met you, but you have clearly an amazing family, and you guys are doing a really cool thing on YouTube, which I have consumed long before I ever even wanted to start this podcast.
Cool, thank you.
So it's a really cool one, I think, to see kind of like what the future is with you guys and continually just putting out badass stuff people want to watch.
Yep, that's the goal. Just keep people watching it. We're not going to be doing anything too crazy, but we'll just keep them coming.
All right, guys, check out Stuck in the Rut on YouTube. I'll link everything.
Thanks for having me.